Hey everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, I've come across a little bit of a conundrum. Somebody pointed out in one of the groups that I'm in that perhaps I should rename my business from Python addiction to snake addiction, as I have more than just pythons in my collection, and that's who I have here today is actually one of the non-python snakes. This here is my boy Ruka, who is a Vietnamese Blue Beauty, and he's going to kind of be the star of the show today as we discuss a little bit more about Blue Beauties and beauty snakes in general and their care and stuff like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around. And welcome back. So, as I stated, I'm going to kind of. Ruka here is going to be the star of the show today, even though he's a little bit on the feisty side. We're going to kind of go over a little bit of a care guide and everything like that for him. And this care guide will apply to a good portion of the beauty snakes, as they're all predominantly in the same ranges, but everything that I'm going to discuss is going to be specifically related to the Vietnamese Blue Beauty and the way that I keep them. This here again is Ruka. I only have the one beauty snake right now. He actually came from Snake Discovery, and he has a story that comes along with it because he was stuck in shipping with FedEx for 5 days, and thankfully he came to me when I finally got him, still nice and healthy. Emily and myself were both kind of nail biting as he was stuck over the weekend when I first got him at the hub in Indianapolis, of all things. So, but I'm just happy that he's with me, even though he's a little bit of a feisty monkey at times. He is absolutely gorgeous. And we're going to kind of discuss a few different things about their care and everything like that. So, the Blue Beauties, the Vietnamese Blue Beauty specifically, he can live 15 to 30 years. Size wise, as an adult, he's just about 2 years old now. But as an adult, he can be anywhere from 7 to some people have had beauty snakes that have gotten over 11 feet. So he's going to be a big boy, but not thick. He's going to be a slender bodied snake. They are semi arboreal, and I will tend to lean to a little bit more than just semi from observations, at least with this boy. He definitely likes to climb. Range wise, temperature wise, everything like that. Not as, you don't need to worry about temperature as high as like a ball python or anything like that. So we're going to kind of break everything down, and we'll start off with housing, as far as what you're going to need for housing. As a baby, you can get away with like a 10 or a 20 gallon tank, and make sure that it has a nice tight fitting lid. I would recommend a front opening tank if you can, as that will make getting everything a little bit easier. These guys can be escape artists. So you want to make sure that whatever you have for an initial enclosure, especially when they're babies or younger, is tight sealing if you've got the lid. The tank that I originally had him in was a small 18 by 18 by 18 enclosure, and I actually taped down the top. It was a front opening closure, so I taped the top screen down completely. And as an adult, some people say that you can get away with something more on the lines of like a 4 by 2 by 2 or something like that. I'm going to say more arboreal. If you can get something that's like 3 foot by 4 foot or by 6 foot, something that's on the taller side, they do like to climb. And as a semi arboreal species, giving more of that height is gonna, you're gonna have that the temperature range that we get into up and down more so than having to worry about it left to right. And that's just my suggestion, to go more on the height side of things when it comes to an adult than having to worry about the width. I know for him, he's in kind of his grow out in an 18 by 18 by 36 right now, and he uses that height without any issues or qualms whatsoever. And he'll get a nice 6 foot tall enclosure when for his adult enclosure. I'm actually building three of them all side by side for two of them for my two Bridley pythons, who are also semi-arboreal. So all three will have nice tall enclosures. But we'll go right into, from the housing side of things, we'll go right into the heating side of things, the heating and lighting. Have a hotspot. I use a radiant heat panel at the top of his enclosure, and that's set for around 88 degrees. And I also have a heat mat on the bottom where one of his two hide areas are, that is set for the same 88-degree range. So there's a warm spot up top and a warm spot in the bottom. But the mid-range, mid 70s, is absolutely perfect. I find him hanging out more in that mid range in one of his other hides, and I'll show you some of the videos of his enclosure and everything right here. And as you can see, it's long as far as the going from the height wise. So he's got the hides towards the bottom with a little cave at the bottom, the ledging and the cork bark in the middle, and then a nice another ledge on the top. He'll stick himself in the middle of one of the trees and the upper ledge half the time that he's moving around. He'll go up to the top every once in a while. I keep the ambient temperature in the room itself at around 73, 74 degrees, and he's comfortable there. The only time I ever really see him go all the way up to the top or all the way down to the bottom as far as grabbing the heat is after he's been done eating. And that's kind of expected for the digestion side of things. As far as lighting goes, I suggest having UVB for the beauty snakes because they will be out and about and outside. Is it required? I don't think so because they are partially cave dwelling type of species, but they'll be found all the way through the Southeast Asia, and everything like that, both in trees and uh, more towards on the ground. So their habitats vary widely in that respect there. But I think that UVB is definitely something that you want, and just a low 5, uh, not watt, but whatever the measurement for the UVB spectrum is, just a low level UVB is perfectly fine to offer some of that UVB. I think he's benefiting from it because I've had UVB on him ever since I got him, and I mean he's absolutely beautiful. I don't see any harm with the UVB on that side of things. One of the other things to talk about, other than the lighting and the heating, is humidity and the substrates. Humidity wise, mid 60s, low 70s when they are going through and shedding. Otherwise, ambient humidities in most households in the 40s and 50s is perfectly fine. I use a coconut bedding for the bedding, and I keep that obviously on the damp side. And that's where he goes most of the time when it comes to shedding. So it's mostly like he has a little humid hide by being down towards the floor of his enclosure. I do mist the whole enclosure like once a week just to add and bump up the humidity a little bit, but you don't need it as humid as you would for like ball pythons in general. Having the slightly lower humidities is perfectly fine for these. I know some people will say that they need it a lot more humid, and they really don't, because they like the slightly cooler temperatures. They thrive a little bit better in the cooler temperatures because a lot of their home environments are like caves. So it's a little bit cooler, so the natural coolness is going to have, with the lower cool temperatures, it's going to be a little bit, the humidity levels are going to be different to begin with. So I think that having, like I said, using the coconut substrate and keeping that just on the damp side and misting every once a week or something like that is more than enough. If for the humidity side of things, you don't need to keep it rainforest humid or ball python humid in their enclosure. So having that gradient, having that lower spot with the humidity and making it more like a humid hide is a perfect alternative, and they'll seek that area. I've actually found him going through in his little rock hide towards the bottom. He'll actually kind of make a little dam over the opening of his hide to kind of seal himself in when he's going through a shed. And then he pokes himself right out when he's done his shed, which he actually just finished shedding the other day. So, but I love the pattern. You see how he goes from just having a blank slate to this crazy little patterning here to the lines towards the back. And if you can see the back of his tail, it goes right down into a stripe. I love the variation that comes right through the whole pattern. And similar types of things will be in some of the other beauty snakes as well. But I just love the striking blues and everything like that. And it's funny because when they're born, they're more greenish when they're born, and they grow into this blue over the first few of sheds that they have, and you'll actually see little bits, hints of like reddish brownish tinge in there because they'll match and blend in with some of the rocks and stuff like that that they would be crawling through in the wild. So as far as feeding, these guys are not like some other colubrids and some other and the pythons. He has to eat like twice a week. I feed him like approximately every 5 days, and he gets, at this size, he's getting an adult mouse every 5 days. As an adult, you'll probably feed every 7 to 10 days, something like a small rat. And because they are more active, they like to climb around a lot more, they need to eat a little bit more often. You can't really get away with the once a week or once every 2 week type of feeding schedule with these guys, especially as they get older. And you can kind of watch it if you get one, and as an adult, keep an eye on their weight and everything like that, and feed appropriately. If you have to stretch it out, I know some people will feed something a little bit larger of a prey item. Instead of just doing like the small rats, they'll do like a medium rat and then stretch it out to like every 14 days. I will probably feed him small rats and feed him a little bit more frequently, just as my preference on that. And as far as everything else, I mean, temperament wise, these guys can have a temperament. Best to try to get them when they are young and handle them often. They can be very bitey and territorial. Though their bite is nothing major, see, as you see here, nothing. No blood, no nothing, even though he chomped down on me for a second there. They have teeth. I could feel his teeth, but they're not, at this age, they're not very sharp. And he can still be very calm and nice. And as they get, if you work with them, the more you work with them, the better off they're going to be, the less likely they're going to be bitey, because they're very territorial and they're very defensive of their home environment. So when you're feeding, feed them in their enclosure. No need to take them out or anything like that. But just know that they're going to be one of those that if you're afraid of bites, these guys probably aren't going to be the right choice for you, as the chance of you getting bit is a lot higher with something like this, as it's just their nature. The other thing that they do like to do, and this boy doesn't do it anymore because I handle him so often, and he only bit me because I put my hand right in front of his face while I was handling him here. They like to musk, and that's both male or female. It doesn't matter. They will musk on you. More so, again, when they're young, or if they haven't been handled a lot, they'll musk and everything like that. So, things to consider if you're looking at getting one. If you're looking at breeding or anything like that, you're going to need a very, very large enclosure. I recommend you actually watching some of the video footage from Snake Discovery with what Ed and Emily have in their zoo as far as the size for their Blue Beauties, if you're looking at housing more than one, because they do need a lot of room to, if you're going to house more than one together. They like lots of hides, rocky types of environments, as you saw from the pictures that I showed of his enclosure, because they do like to climb. So when you're setting up their enclosure, having lots of different levels and lots of different hiding spots is very good. They don't do that well in racks, so I don't suggest, other than for breeding, when you're breeding, like the babies, going into a rack bin for a little while is fine. But as a actual housing environment, I do not recommend racks at all. I do know some people that have the smaller, like 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot enclosures for an adult. I don't think that that's enough space for how active these guys can be. They need space to move around. So, but that's the basics on caring for a Blue Beauty. It's definitely understanding that they can be a little bit more of a temperamental snake, and not always for everybody. You can wear gloves when handling if you're afraid of the bites or anything like that. But like I said, their bites, especially when they're younger, aren't massive, and they're not going to hurt or anything like that. But don't think that you're not going to get bit, as he's taken pot shots at me several different times as I work with him. But he's such a beautiful boy. I'll get him up really close for you guys to see. He's just a beautiful boy. I mean, and overall handleability, he's being really good at if I'm not putting myself right in his space. Because he's holding on really good and everything like that. He's just my little grumpy boy at times. But that's Vietnamese Blue Beauty, and just a basic little care guide for you to take into consideration. If you have any other questions or comments, please do leave them in the comment section below, as I use those types of things to create videos for you guys to watch. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. That also lets me know that you like what I'm putting out. And if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe and click that notification icon as well, as it'll let you know when I put out new videos. I tend to put out new videos at least once a week on Mondays. And until next time, I'm Jack, and this is Python Addiction.